Good evening and welcome to the Milford Select Boarding of June 10, 2024 in Room 3 at 6 p.m. The first agenda item is signing of the warrant.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion we sign the warrant for June 10th, 2024.
And I second that, Mr. Moore.
And I make that unanimous. Next, under agenda item A is approval of the regular session meetings for June 10, 2024. Motion, please.
Chairman, I make a motion we approve the minutes of the regular session of June 10th, 2024.
And I second that, Mr. Chairman, with no
I would
errors.
make that unanimous. And last under that, agenda A is approval of executive session meeting minutes from June 10, 2024.
Chairman, I make a motion we approve the executive session minutes of June 10th, 2024.
And I second that, too, Mr.
And I would
Chairman.
make that unanimous as well.
Just all set
Next
for that.
agenda item is public hearings. There are no scheduled public hearings this evening, so we move right to agenda item C, which is scheduled appointments. First is we have the finance director and the town administrator for FY '24 year-end transfers. Good evening, Zach.
Good evening.
Hi, Zach.
How's it going? Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can I take it away?
Go right ahead.
All right, a little bit of background. This is no different than previous years. I'm here today under the authority of Chapter 44, Section 33B, which allows transfers under Article 4, the operational budget for fiscal '24 between certain line items. This is what I commonly refer to as Round 2, because I sponsor an article at the annual town meeting. That's for items at the time that we know about. There always seems to be little issues that come in the last month of the year, this year being no exception. I'll give you some trend and happy to go into any detail you'd like, but some of the trends are inflationary costs, dealing with some overtime, which is not uncommon. Overtime costs, we don't typically budget strong overtime, but as we know, FMLA, SLA, if stuff happens, we have to pay it, Fair Labor Standard Act. But the other issues are repair and maintenance. We had a tough year this year. Costs of repairs are up, but we just had some difficult repairs, fire being one, Parks Department being one. That's the $21,000 cost there. And those are the trends that we're seeing. Some are just square up parking, $600. But for the most part, that's what we're looking at. Happy to go into any detail if you'd like on any of these transfers. It is within existing appropriation, and if lucky enough to have them approved tonight, it will square our books away for the year.
Okay, thank you, Zach. With that, I'll open it up to any board member.
The fire thing, I mean, we knew it was coming to some degree. We didn't know the dollar amounts. So there was the repair to the ladder truck that was in a collision. And then we acquired a vehicle from one of our neighbors. We knew that we had to invest into that vehicle to make it viable to work for us. And that's the military chassis to salt water. There's no surprises as far as the fire department goes at all. And that's literally the bulk of things other than the public building, which is always shifting. I don't know if anyone else has any, I don't have any questions.
To that point, Selectman O'Loughlin, Rick and I did adjust the budget for the current year, almost dollar for dollar, so hopefully we're not in this position next year, but that's all utility costs.
I don't have any questions.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. And Zach, thank you for your explanation in this, too, as well. And also to our Chief Nelson, as well as our Parks Director, Azam, for explaining, the higher costs of what we need. And, of course, they're not luxuries, they're necessities. So it's something that we need. And of course, throughout the course of a year, you can't really predict inflation costs over time, what's going to break down, what's not going to break down. So I think these were very well explained and very well justified as well. And I just would recommend that we would approve it.
And just a note on that, I mean, with parks there, it does really stink if you had to wait till 7/1 and tap $21,000 into your brand-new budget. That
Right.
basically eats it up.
It'll
the
eat it
whole
right
year.
up.
So
Yeah.
We're fortunate to be in the situation.
Exactly,
we're in.
so it's good timing, and we're in good a situation.
Yep.
He needs the equipment.
And you need the equipment.
This is the critical time. So
Mm-hmm.
it's, you know, it's either that or buy a new one, and you're not getting a new one quick.
And Jack, you make two great points, you know, over time, you can try the best you can to control it, but sometimes you just can't. But the FMA, you have no control over it. It's set, and you have to live with it.
Someone works over the 40, we gotta pay them, and we should, and we do.
Yeah, right, it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
So, but no, thank you very much, you know, great job as usual. Entertain a
Make a
motion?
motion that we approve the recommendation of the finance director as it relates to transfers.
I second that too, Mr. Chairman.
And I would glad the unanimous, make that unanimous. Thank
Great
you
job,
very
Mary,
much.
appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks, Zach.
And next under scheduled appointments, we have Keystone Automotive.
Ron's here.
Come on right up on, please.
Can you come up, Frank, just so the microphone catches you? It's on the TV, that's why they do that.
Okay, we have Keystone Automotive Incorporated, 50 Birch Street in Milford, Mass., has applied for a new Class 2 license to buy and sell secondhand motor vehicles. All this paperwork is in order. As usual, we do have a department head review form. That is where we reach out to the different department heads to make sure that everything is in line. Tax collector, no outstanding taxes. The town treasurer, there are no liens. Fire chief has no objections. Police chief has approved it, and the Board of Health has no issues at all. Building commissioner, allowable use. Building is accessible, and the town planner is okay with it as well. So with that, again, it's an application by Mr. Gray to open up a business at 50 Birch Street in Milford to buy and sell Class 2 vehicles, secondhand motor vehicles.
Mr. Chairman, yeah, I know Ron has had a license here in Milford before, long-standing license in Holliston. We attempted to give him a license some time ago where he could operate online, because that's where that business is. Nobody knows better than you, Ron. And at one point, previous town council had indicated to me and the board that approval of the license where Ron wanted to have it from one of the residences here in town was appropriate and could be done. Subsequent town council said, no, it could not be done. And he ended up in a limbo until we get to here today. Through no fault of his own, he was relying on what he was being told. So I wholeheartedly approve this. I think it's the right thing to do. I thought it was the right thing to do previously. He's been in this business for many, many years, as you see from the application. We're going back to the early 1990s, so, 30 years. I just wanted to give you some of the history so that you appreciate how hard he's worked to figure out a place here in Milford where he could conduct his business after being told that it was appropriate and then not. And I'm not faulting any of the legal arguments. They made them, and that's that. So if anyone doesn't have questions.
You all set, Paul?
Yeah, I'm all set too, and like I said, I knew Ron Gray for many years too, and we never had an issue with him at all when it came to this type of business and whatnot. So, like Tom said,
Make a
since-
motion that we approve the,
And I second that too, based on what your experience and your history and whatnot, Ron, and the best to you.
In a long run, I'll tell you that.
So,
That would make it unanimous.
Are we good?
You're all
you're all
set?
set, Ronnie.
Okay, thank
Have a
you.
good night. Take care.
Be safe, everybody.
Next agenda item is Town Administrator's Report.
Yes, 3 items tonight, Mr. Chairman. First, the fireworks show. Just want to remind people, it will be held on Friday, July 5th. Rain date is Saturday, July 6th. Just one note, the display is going to begin a little earlier this year. We've had some issues, so we're going to go at 9:30 p.m. Again, that's about a half hour earlier than normal. The Milford Lions Club will be providing music and food at Plains Park for those who are interested. Jim Asam has informed me that the new pool will be open on Monday, July 8th of this year. It will be open 7 days a week. The hours will be 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. Hopefully we'll stay open until September 14th. At this time, we will be accepting cash or check as payment at the gate. There's a daily admission fee for children, adult, Milford resident, adult, non-resident. There are seasonal passes that people can acquire from the Parks Department. For example, an individual Milford resident would be $60, a non-resident would be $150. There's a family membership, so that a family with, say, 2, 3, 4 children is not paying an exorbitant price, and a family non-resident. So if anybody has any questions, please reach out to Jim. I know it's a long-awaited project. If you've been down there, it's progressed very, very
Sure
well.
has.
Yeah.
And given the weather, it can't be too soon, I guess. So, and the final issue, the final matter, Treasurer Chris Pillar held an auction of the 2 properties that he was before you on our prior meeting, 41 Beaver Street. That sold for $325,000. The second property, 52 Emmett Street, sold for $190,000. Both amounts exceeded what was owed to the town. The parcel will be set to close probably this week. Our tax title attorneys, Coppola and Coppola, will handle that. Once the closings occur, notices will be sent out to the prior owners advising them of the sale. If there's any excess equity, they can make a claim at that time for that excess
Sure.
equity. It looks like it would be in both cases. So Chris wanted just to update you and kind of bring you to closure
Yep.
on that matter.
That's fair.
That's all I have tonight, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Rick.
Thank you very much. Any member have any questions for the town administrator?
No,
No set. No, thank you, Rick.
Thank you very much, Rick. All right, next agenda item is old business. Does any member have any old business?
I do not.
I don't,
And I
Mr.
do
Chairman,
not
no.
as well. So we move on to agenda item F, which is new business. First item is we have a resignation from the Cultural Council to whom it may concern due to the scheduling conflicts and the inability to utilize other opportunities to attend meetings remotely. It is unfortunately in the best interest of the council and its program that I resign. I've enjoyed being a member and wish there was another solution. However, with 3 very active children and working a full-time job, being physically in a meeting is not always possible. I wish the council and its members the best. Sincerely, Naressa Santomino. Any member?
I make a motion that we accept the resignation. You know, the fact that she did serve, with all those challenges in her life, that we express our thanks. I know that Jerry would do that through the council as well, but just to thank her for her service to the community.
Same here. She was just newly appointed, maybe a couple of years ago as well. And like I said, she was a very good member. And we wish Naressa well. And again, thank you for her years of service, too.
Rick will get a letter out, as
Yep.
we always do. And again, I apologize if I did mess up your name, Narissa Santomena or
Right.
Santamina.
Sentimenta.
Santamena.
Right.
So, again, thank you very much for your service to the town of Milford. Okay, next is the town administrator, appointments and reappointments. Mr. Malani?
Yeah, the appointments are laid out for you. Excuse me. People who do get appointed, you do need to be sworn in with the town clerk. Remember, in 2 town meetings ago, we put in that at some point, within 30 days of second notice, the position becomes vacant. So I just want to stress to people, if you are appointed, you accept that appointment, come down and accept it, and be sworn in. The letter is laid out for you. There are some committees where, unfortunately, there are vacancies and no applicants, and so the board would want to go however they want to do it, one by one group, and make a decision.
I think what I'll do, Rick, if you don't mind, is I'll take them board by board or commission by commission. I'll look to Selectman O'Laughlin to make the motion, Mr. Mazzucchelli to second.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, so the first,
As far as the reappointments, Mr. Chairman, if I could suggest, unless there's a particular board where a member has a question, because I don't
okay,
on any of the boards, just to expedite things, but if someone doesn't have a question on an appointment, then I'd be happy to make a motion to appoint those who are up for reappointment as listed on this document.
okay. So what I'll do is I'll read the commission or the board, and then you can make the motion from there. How's that?
It's fine with me, or we can do them just en masse,
Yeah, just say,
go by it. I mean, if you're, unless there's a board, you or my colleague
Okay, then, that's fine, if you
Paul
want
has
to
a
make,
question,
No.
I'll make a motion that we reappoint each and all of the people listed on this document in each of these boards.
yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'm fine with the reappointments.
okay. And you'll make that second?
Yes, I make that a second
Okay,
as
and I will
well.
make that unanimous.
Good.
They go to cultural council,
Now, we-
vacancies, and they go to
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so the next one is going to be the first one, I should say, will be the Cultural Council, where we have 3 names in the Talent Bank.
and if I could, there's actually, they listed 3 that they recommended. There's 5 names. I just want to make it clear, Mr. Chairman, that one of them is my wife, John O'Laughlin. She was recently elected in the last election to the trustees of the library. So this position, she could not do both at this point in time.
Correct.
So I'd ask that you not consider her for that position at this meeting, and it alleviates a conflict as well, but she's not asking to be considered. They are recommending 3 other people for the position, and I would recommend that for the Cultural Council that we appoint Elena Coates, Joanne Goggins, and Kaylin Holmes.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, looking through the application for those 3 individuals that were just named, I feel as though that there'd be qualified members for this council, and I would gladly second that motion that Select Board O'Laughlin mentioned.
Okay, and I would make that unanimous. So those 3 names, Mr. Valani, will be added to the Cultural Council, please. Okay, next one we have is Fair Housing. There are 2 vacancies on Fair Housing, if I'm reading this correct, Rick?
Yeah.
But we have no names in the Talent Bank.
Tough one over the years.
So anybody, if you are watching and you're looking to get involved in the community, Fair Housing does have some vacancies that need to be filled. If you would be interested, please reach out to the town administrator or the selectman's office and fill out the necessary paperwork. Thank you. And next would be the Finance Committee, and there are 3 vacancies on the Finance Committee at the current time. Mr. O'Laughlin?
I would make a motion that we table that one until the next meeting, just to give us an opportunity to look at each of the applicants. There are some applicants that have been on the list for 3 years, others for 2, and some more current. So that'd be my recommendation.
You know, I think that's a good point, Selectman O'Laughlin. Again, giving the boards and committees the time to assess their needs, to see, you know, what their membership needs are and what candidates that they could recommend to us or that we could see through the talent bank that would be based on their needs. So I think, like I said, we shouldn't make a hasty decision right away, and let's give it the due diligence that we would need for an important committee like this to assess their needs, to see if they even need 15 members. Should we reappoint, should we fill all 3 vacancies, 1 vacancy, 2 vacancies, or what, you know? Because like I said, we've been talking about this in the past, you know, about 15 members on this committee. Is it really effective? You know, and what would the impact be if it was 9 members or 11 members?
Right.
You know, so again, it's something that we should consider, and I appreciate Select Board O'Loughlin's recommendation that we do table this until the next meeting, to give us more time to digest this and to go over what, you know, is really important and what we really need to do.
Okay, I would agree with that. So the Finance Committee appointments, the vacancies, we are going to table that. We are not going to make any recommendations this evening, and we will take that up in our next meeting. Thank you very much. Next, we come down to Personnel Board. There is 1 vacancy on the Personnel Board, and I believe there are, again, no applications on file. And the vacancy is an alternate position, Rick? It's the alternate position. So again, if you're interested, if you're out there watching this evening and you're interested in getting involved in the community, please reach out to the town administrator or to the Select Board office and fill out the necessary paperwork. Thank you very much. Okay. And the next is the Youth Commission. We have vacancies on the Youth Commission. This is we have 1 name on the application right now, but we have multiple names in the talent bank. We are allowed to, Mr. Valani, up to 24 or 21.
I want to say 23, but don't hold me to that.
Yeah, it's an odd number, but it's, I do know,
We're not close to
having
that.
served on that board, it's, yeah, we're not close to that. So we do have multiple names here this evening, so I'll turn it again to Selectman O'Loughlin to see what the pleasure of the motion.
I would make a motion that we appoint, well, I can say each and every one of them, which is exactly what my motion will be, that we appoint Martin Montoya. Martin's been well-known in this community. He is IT with broadband, you know, serving the town and the schools. Just a good guy and well-known, and someone that really loves and cares about this community. So without digging deep into the resume, which I have personal knowledge of, I think he's ideal for that slot. So I would recommend Martin Montoya for appointment to the Youth Commission.
Do all of them at the same time? Or you
Whatever the pleasure of the board. I would recommend Kathleen O'Donovan.
Okay, thank you.
In looking at her application, she's a registered nurse. She works at a private school, so she has a lot of interaction with youth, and I was appreciative in looking at the fact that she's a member of Celebrate Milford as well as a board member, so her involvement in the community. The application from Jane Newman, and these date back to 2021, I believe, yes, each of them. She's a teacher in an urban setting. She has her master's in education, you know, so her interaction with young people, she's a long-term teacher. And she has 2 children that are in the schools. So she works in an urban setting. She has a good handle on, you know, young people and issues as far as whether it be family or other things that affect kids. So I would recommend Jane Newman as well. The last one I would recommend, Mr. Chairman, is I'll have to do those 3 first, because the last one is related to you and it will create a conflict.
Mr. Chairman, reviewing these applications and whatnot, and like I said, what Selectman O'Loughlin was mentioning, especially those that, the last two that he mentioned, Kathleen Donovan and Jane Newman, have been listed since 2021, which shows, and they're still interested after these years later, which I think they definitely deserve, and their qualifications are very well, especially when it comes to a committee like this as well. And Martin Mortagna, like, I believe he was also the IT. He did a lot of IT with the police too, Tom, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so he knows, that would be very important on a committee such as this. So I would second those three names as well.
Okay, and I would make that unanimous as well, that we're going to do a two-phase vote on the Youth Commission. The first vote is to appoint Martin Montagna, Kathleen Donovan,
Right.
and Jane Newman.
Correct.
And I will make that unanimous. Mr. O'Loughlin?
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to make a recommendation that we appoint Courtney Walsh. She also has had an application. I believe that's your daughter, so it creates a conflict as far as your voting.
That's correct.
But I would make a recommendation to my colleague, Paul Mazzucchelli, that we appoint her. She's had interaction with young people, having worked with them in the younger years, 12 plus, as well as the age of 6. And she likewise has had an application since 2021 and still expresses an interest. So for my colleague, I make that motion and I vote yes.
And I gladly second that. And again, it's not just because it's a relation to our chairman, but because, number one, she did have an application since November of 2021. And also, when you look at all the X's that she could have posted of boards and committees she's interested in serving, she only picked the Milford Youth Commission. So that goes to show you it was in her heart to serve on this committee, and no other committee would give her any temptation to serve on that but the Youth Commission. So again, experienced working with children, is well-educated, and I would gladly second that as well, and I wish her the best.
Okay, and again, for clarity for the general public, I am abstaining from that vote because of the relation to my family. That is my daughter-in-law, just so the general public knows. So I am abstaining from the vote. So we have a first and a second, and
Aye.
and she has been appointed. Thank you very much. And Rick, I believe we got all of them?
Yes, you did.
Thank you. Michael.
All right.
job.
Thank you, gentlemen. Nice job. And now we move on to the town administrator, again, high school building committee appointments.
Yes, the select board have 3 appointments. There's a list in front of you, which includes resumes, letters of interest, emails from the 3 applicants. You do note on the list, 3 of them have already been filled, so you have to exclude them from your consideration. One is a planning board rep, and 2 were the school committee appointments, which were made last Thursday. So that leaves 20 names. Again, you have 3 that you, the bylaw, need to appoint to the high school building committee.
I think it's impressive that 23 people come out and they're willing. I mean, let alone yourself, Mr. Chairman, and then, Mr. Valani and others that are appointed because of their position. In going through the information and based upon the town meeting vote, there are some people that, although they're very interested, which you mentioned other positions that are open, and I hope that they'll look at them. But based on the town meeting vote, I couldn't put them in that slot because of either experience, education. They didn't fall within what town meeting had decided, the criteria as the committee was presented by the school department. So I worked my way through, Mr. Chairman, and there were three names that jumped out at me, two of whom are known to, I think, most people in town, and one, I wouldn't know him if he walked in the door right now. Jonathan Bruce is one candidate that came to me, and not because he sits at the top of the list alphabetically, but his involvement in Woodland, particularly when we got to the tail end of Woodland and there were things that were not done exactly right. He was instrumental based upon his experience, his knowledge, his education, and stepping forward. And the time he dedicated to this town through that legal process and working with Jerry Moody and with then Brian Murray, and then the two of them together, as well as outside counsel, I think was critical to the town's well-being financially, as well as having the project done right. He recognized that things weren't right, tried to correct them through the committee, and when that wasn't working, we had to shift to the legal side of things to accomplish that. Jonathan was instrumental. I believe he was involved in another school project, I believe Brookside, off the top of my head. I'm not as familiar with that, but I believe Jonathan's been involved in a number of different construction projects, and something of this size, I think falls right within his base of knowledge. So I would recommend as my person at the top there, simply because of what he's already done. The old thing, don't tell me what you're going to do, show me what you've done. He's shown us. So I would recommend Jonathan Bruce, without a question.
Unless you wanted to go on.
You want me to go through the other? Oh, I'm happy to talk about the other two folks. Mitch Rossetti is well known to us. He's a sitting town administrator in a neighboring community. His involvement in this town has been extraordinary. Town Park, the whole grant there, the grant for us to do the work over at the youth center. There's the person that stepped forward and in his own time, working with the town administrator here, Mr. Villani and others, really made a difference in accomplishing, receiving those funds from the state. So he's involved in projects now. I mean, one only has to read the newspapers to see that he's smack in the middle of some big situations in the small town next door, in dealing with the railroad and trees and what happened here or there. He gets it. And so he's managed projects of that magnitude and been involved in them. And, he's well educated, but he still resides here in Milford. And, I think he's a fantastic candidate. The third individual that there was another individual caught my attention, and great background, very strong, Sean Hanley, but he lives in Upton. He had moved to Upton. So after I worked my way through his resume, I went back and I said, wait a second, I live just over the line in town Upton. I went, because I went back and looked at the town meeting vote to ensure that what was in my memory was correct, and it says resident. Correct. I then, as working through things, there's a gentleman, Mike, and I'm going to mispronounce, but Mike Verrengia, Verrengia, just a wealth of experience in not so many years, actually, very large projects, complicated projects, electrical engineer. He's a mechanical engineer focusing on electrical. He's been the project manager as it relates to all the electrical components of building that size. And his experience is current. It's today's environment, today's technology. Those were the three individuals, Jonathan Bruce, Mitch Rossetti, and Michael Varengia, that jumped out at me.
Thank you very much. Mr. Paul?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, too. Thank you. Yeah, first of all, I'm very impressed with the strong group of applicants that we had for this project. Going over all the resumes and their qualifications and experience, it aligns with what, most of them align with what the project is required. And like I said, I definitely support Jonathan Bruce for that as well. I've been on the school committee with him for a few years. He was not only at the time active with the Brookside School project, but also the Woodland School project. I believe he was co-chair with Mr. Chakey. And like I said, they did a great job, as you could see from it. That was one of the largest schools, from what I remember, being on the school committee at the time, in the largest elementary school in the state.
Correct.
At the time when it came to square footage. So that required a lot of work, a lot of expertise, a lot of time. And that's what we have to consider when we're appointing people for this type of committee, is the time that it's going to take for them to come to these meetings and for their expertise. So I definitely wholeheartedly second the motion to appoint Jonathan Bruce to the school building committee, but also Mitch Rossetti as well. Very impressed with when I met with him and whatnot at various meetings here, what he did for that grant for the town park, and also as the grants that he got from the downtown improvement committee throughout the years. Morrow's acting as their economic development coordinator, which I thought was very impressive as well. So like I said, I think he would be a very good member to that committee. In going over the other applicants, I do agree with Mike Varengia, his qualifications as well. He is a mechanical engineer, which to me I think that's very important to have that knowledge when it comes to these meetings and dealing with architects and other contractors, to make sure that they're on the right track. And if they're trying to not be on the right track, that can be stopped. And we're talking well over $100 million that I've been hearing that this project may cause, and to get these qualified individuals, I think, is a great step in the right direction. Again, to repeat myself for effectiveness, I'm very impressed, with the strong group of applicants that we had apply for this, and I appreciate what they have done, and for them to continue to applying for various projects like this here, because they're very much needed. But these three are the ones that stood out in my mind as well. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Okay, before I make a motion, before I vote on that, if I may, I just want for the general public, the criteria is set for us on the qualifications of the candidates that we put in place. And so to go back to, not to be repetitive, but to go back to what Selectman O'Loughlin had to say with the first candidate, Jonathan Bruce. I was chairman of the Milford School Committee at the time under the Woodland School construction, and Jonathan Bruce, as well as Mr. Chakey and all the members, were very involved and gave us a very well-done finished product. But there was a lot of hard work and a lot of long meetings that went into getting that done. To Selectman O'Loughlin's point, as we got closer to the building being done, there was some hiccups, and it was through Mr. Bruce's expertise in the construction field that it made working through that process a lot easier. As far as Mr. City goes, I had experience working with Mr. City at the Milford Youth Commission. He was very instrumental in helping us get some grants, showing us how to properly write a grant, how to navigate through some problems that we are having at the state level. He is a sitting town administrator in a local community, so he does understand town government, as well as issues you're going to deal with locally. And to Mr. Varengia, again, I apologize if I mispronounce your name. The criteria, again, in a project this large, we're going to need people that have expertise in mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, and, out of the applicants, I as well felt that, he stood out in that area. So I'm going to make the vote unanimous that we are selectmen, the Milford Board of Select Board is going to make our 3 votes and our appointments to be Jonathan Bruce, Mitch Rossetti, and Michael Varengia. Those are our 3 choices to put to the high school building committee, and I would make that motion unanimous.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. But as you said, I started by saying when I first looked at the list, and I read everything that everyone submitted, and the commitment to each and every one of them was equal, to the community. And I would encourage them to involve themselves in other opportunities.
Right.
Because it was impressive.
Very, 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 very. Okay, under new business, the next item is the Metro West Regional Transit Authority, the designee to the Metro West Transit Authority. It's quite a lengthy letter. Basically what it is that the Board of Selectmen has to vote and appoint a member to the Metro West Regional Transit Association Advisory Board. That is the board that basically, as you see the buses that run through our community, that is the board that oversees the Metro West Regional Transit Authority. I currently sit in that position on the board, so with that, I'll open it up. It's a yearly thing that we have to make the reappointment, and I'll open it up to any board member.
Congratulations.
Yes, Michael. And I second that congratulations as well.
Thank you very much for your support.
You're quite welcome.
Okay, and the next item on the new business is our police chief, changing the traffic direction on Spring Street. Police Chief Tassino.
evening.
Good evening. Good evening, and welcome.
Rick lied to me, so if I was here at 6, he'd get me in and out.
We had a lot of appointments.
Yeah, that's what you said. That's a call. So just briefly what's going on in town, so you know what's coming down the pipe. So working with actually, the town administrator's office, we've been going out, I've been taking, trying to take a day every other week, and I go out with his staff. And what we do is keep track of all the complaints, and we visit these areas. We get a, firsthand account of what's going on in certain streets, anything from parking to how can we improve the speeding reduction and, address all these concerns. So you're going to see these things coming down in the next, I'd say the next 4 or 5 meetings, where we're doing some alternate side parkings on some streets, because we've just come to that. So that's coming. And I, certainly people call and leave messages at the town administrator's office or in my department. Everything gets put on a list, and we go on and want to take a first-hand look at these things. So I want to reassure everybody, there's a lot of them. This is Milford, we're a busy place. But it doesn't fall on deaf ears. We'll get to your section of town in regards to your parking complaints, stop signs, or what have you. So what you have before you is Spring Street. And Spring Street, the issue was how it empties out. And as you know, it's one way from Main Street and crosses over Court Street and ends out exiting on North Bow, directly across from the senior center. There was a significant motor vehicle accident not that long ago where it actually pushed the vehicle over into the senior center. The issue there is when you come out of Spring Street, coming down North Bow as you're facing towards Central Street, you don't get a good line of sight there. You don't. and it's dangerous, and, you know, the argument was made, well, let's make Spring Street one-way coming up to Main Street. That has nightmare written all over it, for many reasons. Traffic's already bad enough on Main Street, but the whole reason Spring Street's one-way that way is because you have the two buildings there. You can't get a line of sight coming out that way either, okay? Just like if you go down to Franklin Street next to the police station. Franklin Street is one-way coming off of Main Street, same thing. If you were to come up Franklin Street the other way, you don't have a line of sight because of the buildings. So what we've come up with is if you keep Spring Street one-way off of Main Street, make it one-way up from North Bow Street, and right at the intersection of Court, we can have them, you know, you can't proceed any further. And with appropriate signage, it's not going to be an issue, right? They're going to have to come up one-way from North Bow, still continue in one-way coming down Spring, and then once they get to Court Street, they're going to have to, you know, turn off and go up to Jefferson. But it's not reinventing the wheel. It's actually a very smart compromise. And coming up one way, I've had a lot of people say, well, make Spring Street one way, coming the other way. You can't. Like I said, you don't have the line of sight. And to dump out onto Main Street right there is a nightmare.
Nightmare.
So I think this is, you know, the best way to mitigate that.
Good.
I agree. I mean, I recall that accident. I mean, the vehicle, we had to fix the senior center. I mean, it went through the wall.
Right.
And the issue is, the chief said, as you come down Spring Street, you look to your left, North Bow, coming from Maine. There's a curve there. Even a vehicle traveling at the speed limit, 30 miles an hour, they don't have enough stopping distance to not hit you.
That's true.
It's really, and I'll tell you, I leave Town Hall, if I'm going to go that way, I actually go across to Jefferson. Because Jefferson, it's an easier outlet. You know, you have a good line of vision in both directions. So I can't agree with this more. I know that the senior center, the council voted to have this something done about this intersection. Not necessarily telling the chief what to do. He went and looked at it on his own with his staff. But the you know, the senior citizens have expressed real concern. This is going to inconvenience. When I saw this, I went down the other day. It's a couple of homes, and their inconvenience is simply, rather than come in from Jefferson and they turn to their home, they come off of North Bow to their home. If they want to leave, they hit that stop sign. They either go, they want to go to Main Street, they take a right up past Town Hall, or they take a left in the road to Jefferson. No one else on that street will be inconvenienced at all. They come down, and it puts them in a safe position to get to where they want to go. I commend the chief, I commend the police department, but really taking a look at this based upon a recommendation coming from the senior center.
Definitely agree. Like I said, I've been there many a times going down there, and it's that curve. It's actually a blind spot, and all of a sudden, the next thing you know, there's a car coming right toward you. You know, so you really got to hesitate in pulling out if you don't know the area. Someone who don't know the area is just going to pull out a little further, and that's how problems start. So I think this is a good move, Chief, and I thank you for that. And I also thank the Senior Center for bringing it to our attention as well. Thank you.
And for the general public, before I make my vote, I just wanted to understand, things like this, we don't just pull things like this out of our hat, or we get recommendations and we just move on them. I, as well, was down there last week and called, and I got the police chief on the phone right away, as I always do, thank you very much. And I just had general questions, and one of the questions that I had for the chief at the time was, there were cars that were parked on one side of the street that obviously were people that were at the senior center. I said, well, chief, what are we going to do if we make it one way? They're not going to. He said, yeah, they'll still be able to park there, and then explained it to me. And then he said to me, you know, the big thing, as he mentioned earlier, is the corner on North Bow Street, going down there looking, say, wow, this is obstructed. you know, and until you really pay attention to it, it really is a hazard. Not only is it a hazard if a car, what we had, as everybody knows, hit the senior center, but we've been fortunate that we haven't had a horrific accident coming around that corner, you know? And so we do take these things serious, and I do agree that what the chief has proposed, making it one-way coming up Spring to Jefferson or Court, and then let people decide which way they want to go. Again, to the chief's recommendation, if you're coming up Springs, take a left on to Jefferson, which Jefferson's a big street and can handle the flow of traffic. So again, we have the motion made by Selectman O'Loughlin, seconded by Mr. Mazzucchelli, and I will make that unanimous that we make Spring Street up to Court a one-way street.
Excellent.
And Mr. Chairman, he also recommended within this document that we take a look at the signage in that area with the potential of posting signs that
Correct.
parking is for seniors, for the senior center from 9 to 4.
Right.
There's a lot of activity in the area. You know, you have the gymnastic place on the corner across from Sorrento. You have Sorrento, a number of other things. And the senior center never balks, you know, at people parking, but there are senior centers really taking off in the past year, particularly after COVID, to the point that, as you mentioned, there are vehicles parked on North Bow. There are vehicles parked, seniors, that park on the side streets as well, such as Spring Street. So, you know, for the chief to take a look as far as placement of signage, that some of those spaces are for the senior center, even on the public way during those hours. They're less likely to interfere significantly with those other establishments because most of those are after school or the restaurant opening up for, you know, dinner hours. So as far as within the senior center, we can post whatever signage the town administrator determines. We've left that responsibility to him now 4+ years ago. On the street, I would just ask the chief to just come back to us and say, I want to put them from here to here so that they go into the traffic regulations in the appropriate fashion so that they're enforceable. So if he recommends from the intersection, for instance, and I'm not suggesting that anything that he should do, but, you know, from Jefferson up to Spring on the senior side, and that gives them another 8, 10, 12 spaces during those hours that they provide their greatest services. I would ask them just to simply come back to us, and we would approve it, and it goes into the regulations so that there's no issue about enforcement, there's no issue about who can and can't park there. But as far as on the property itself, I know there are signs down the lower end.
Yeah, and that was really what they were asking. So apparently, like you said, to the point of, you know, at night, we know that some of the restaurant, the patrons park over there, and they walk over, and that's fine. But during the day, it's a busy place.
Oh, yeah.
It's a real busy place in there. And a couple times that I've been down there and sat with everybody, you know, I myself have parked down the street and walked into the senior center. But they had a couple concerns that there were people parking there, and not a lot, but just were taking the few spaces inside the lot. Now, I don't think I was aware at the time that Mr. Malani could just change those signs. I thought the board had.
Yeah, as far as control of, you know, the buildings, the property itself, my understanding, our vote, you know, I remember years ago, was that the town administrator has the authority to address those issues. You know, as much as he had the authority to deal with the parking lot here, it was just the parking across the street.
Yeah, those are the things, and especially other lots, I'll certainly revisit that, because like I said, we spent a lot of time recently going through town in that section of, you'll be getting these documents in the near future, redoing some parking, some serious redirection, because like I've stated to this board before, you talk to homeowners, you talk to everybody, and they come out and they have a candid conversation. They're like, well, am I breaking the law? And you're like, no. But we can't get an ambulance through the street, you know what I mean? And the problem with a lot of these streets, and I want the public to know, is you don't have time to have someone go move your car. Because this is what happens on a lot of the streets, right? I'm coming this way, you're coming that way, I flash the lights to you, or something, and then you go, and you come out and we wave and say, thank you for letting me through. Well, when you're in an ambulance, a fire truck, or a police car, you don't have that.
And if there's 2 or 3 cars behind that guy you're letting go, they want to go too.
Well, that's exactly right. It's just, so that'll be coming down, and certainly we'll revisit that outside there.
You'll be closing every street in town.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of changes. I've got a lot of recommendations. So.
Well, thank you very much,
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you
Have a good night.
so much.
Thank you very much, as always.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
Okay, and the last item under new business is Milford Hospitality LLC doing business as Rail Trail Flatbread Company. Excuse me. A one-day application, a one-day entertainment license. Name of the applicant, the Rail Trail Flatbread Company, located at 223 Main Street in Milford. The description of the event is a Brazilian night pop-up. It's an indoor-outdoor event. The outdoor section is going to be on their outdoor patio. It will take place on June 27th. They have listed, they're looking for permission of the hours from 4 p.m. to 8:30. There is going to be audio, disc jockey. There will be dance performers. It is a for-profit event. They expect roughly about 150 people. There will be beer and wine served. There will be no other food vendors on the property. And with that, I will make a recommendation or ask for a motion from the board, please.
I make a motion that we approve the one-day permit application for one-day entertainment license. They can already serve in that area.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. For June 27th, from 4 to 8:30 p.m., because they can already serve alcohol. So I'll leave the hours as they are. Rail Trail Flatbread, 223 Main Street on June 27th.
I second that, Mr. Chairman, with no other issues.
And I will make that unanimous. Thank you very much. Next agenda item is invitation to speak. Is anybody in the audience for invitation to speak? Not seeing anybody online? And there's nobody online, so thank you very much. And our last agenda item is correspondence. We do have some correspondence from our fire chief, Chief Nelson, if you could come up, please. Chief Nelson, I am going to read the letter that you sent to us. I feel that it's very important, and the last paragraph of the letter, I think, kind of really sums it up for the general public. So it's in reference to our State 9/11 Training Center. For the general public that doesn't know it, up on Maple Street, up by Waters Corporation, a building that was redone is the State Training Center for 9/11. And so there was an incident up there, and this letter is from the fire chief to Mr. Villani. Dear Attorney Villani, on Friday, May 24, 2024, a medical incident occurred requiring immediate intervention from co-workers. Mary Martineau instructed Director Mona Wallace to call 911 because a co-worker had collapsed and was unconscious and not breathing. State 911 instructors Kevin Lewis, a Milford resident, and Tony Newell began CPR. The automatic external defibrillator was connected to the patient, but no shock was administered. The patient regained consciousness after successful chest compressions were delivered. Milford Public Safety Communications obtained information and dispatched the Milford Fire Department, Police Department, and Community EMS. Responders arrived and assumed patient care. The patient was transported to UMass Medical Center. Kevin Lewis is an EMT and did not hesitate to perform CPR with Tony Newell. The State 911 team did a phenomenal job saving the life of a co-worker. This incident highlighted the American Heart Association out of the hospital chain of survival. The first two tasks are recognize cardiac arrest and activate 911, and early CPR focusing on chest compressions. Under stressful conditions where a co-worker needed immediate CPR, each member of the team responded without hesitation and was successful. This team provided their co-worker with the best opportunity to survive. And Chief Nelson, to your credit at the end of your letter, this paragraph right here, I must take a moment to reinforce the importance of CPR training and knowing what to do in this type of emergency. This year, many town employees took advantage of the CPR training through our on-site classes by Community EMS as a part of our emergency ambulance contract. A similar incident can occur anywhere, anytime, and trained individuals may make a difference in changing the impact of somebody's life. And back again to your letter, Chief Nelson, a clear indication of people that are there that are trained in CPR and know what to do, save this person's life.
Sure.
So thank you very, very much. And again, I just wanted to make reference to your last paragraph there, how important it is.
Thank you,
Please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to bring attention to the board so that you knew what had occurred, and I think it's a great opportunity, to highlight the importance of knowing CPR and maybe recognizing that State 911 team of instructors that, did a great job. They just did. So I'd like to, I had mentioned to Director Mona Wallace that I would bring it to the board, and that maybe we could recognize those individuals at a later meeting, but at your discretion.
Yeah, actually, I was going to make that recommendation to Mr. Valani. I'd like to, if we could, bring them in.
Yeah, Mark, I spoke with Mark on that.
Okay.
You can probably reach out to see, given
Sure, if you could do that.
the meeting schedule.
Sure. We'd like to do that.
Great.
But again, thank you very, very much for bringing it to our attention and for the general public so they know that that facility is up there. Right? Yeah. Any board member?
No, just, like any other, we've had other situations where firefighters have saved people's lives, police officers, the police chief who just left, has saved people's lives. And Jay Cavino comes to mind, a dispatcher, so we're talking about 911. The house was on fire here, and he's breaking down doors until, his comrades can come from across the street and take care of business. But it's just, it's the person that's willing to head where everyone else wants to run away from, and these folks did. And they made, this person's alive,
Right.
because of their efforts. They didn't even have to use the defibrillator, which is, remarkable in and of itself. So it shows you that CPR, does it work all the time? The odds really aren't fantastic, but when it does work, the odds are 100%.
Right.
So I commend them. And Mona Wallace is well known to the community, lives here. She's run the State 911 training for, I can't say how many years. I've known her doing it for over 20 years. Fantastic person, and someone that's really dedicated not only to what she does in saving people, their lives and well-being, but she loves this community. So I know she's probably thrilled that her commute is shortened now that they're in Milford, and we're happy to have them here. Happy to have them here. So I would wholeheartedly wish to meet them and say thank you as a person as well as a representative of the community.
Right.
They saved someone's life in Milford.
Sure did. Thank you, Chief, for bringing this to our attention. Like I said, like Tom and Mike was mentioning too. Like I said, a great teamwork. When needed, knowing what to do, when to do it. Like I said, it's fantastic and a great idea too to call them in to honor them really for saving someone's life. Mary Martineau, Mona Wallace, Kevin Lewis, and Tony Newell. Like I said, it's great teamwork. Like I said, it was a miracle. Like I said, that happened, and they were there, and they know what to do. And thank you for bringing this to our attention as well. Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thanks.
Does any other member have any other correspondence, or?
I do not.
I do not either, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Alrighty, and we do have an executive session tonight. Our executive session is for meeting with the town administrator, collective bargaining, fire union, vacation buyback. We will leave our regular meeting. We will not be returning to our regular meeting. We are going to adjourn, go into executive session. So to go into executive session, could I have a roll call vote, please?
I make a motion that we go into executive session, Mr. Chairman,
I second that, too.
And I
for
would
purposes of collective bargaining related to the fire union contract.
make that unanimous. Requires a roll call vote.
Aye.
Aye.
And I would make that aye as well. And with that, we're going to say good evening to everybody. Thank you very much for watching. Again, we're going to go into executive session, and we will not be returning to regular session. Thank you, and have a nice week.